So you're thinking of moving to Edmond, Oklahoma. My name is Kinsley and I'm a local realtor in Edmond, Oklahoma and its surrounding areas. Whether you're looking to move in 10 days or 10 months, I would love to be able to connect with you and help you on your move to Oklahoma. I love getting to work with people every day and just helping them find their dream homes. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can give me a call, text, email, DM. You can schedule a Google Meet so that we can get connected and I can help you on your move. So chances are you clicked on this video because you're thinking about moving to Edmond, Oklahoma. But before you make the move, you want to know all that there is to know about Edmond. Maybe before you buy the plane ticket to come visit, before you tell your job that you're leaving, whatever the case, you're wanting to learn more about Edmond. It just so happened that you stumbled across my channel. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you 5 things you need to know before you move to Edmond. And let me preface this video by saying, I love Edmond. There are pros and cons to Edmond. Edmond's not for everybody, but I know a lot of people that have moved here truly do love the town. I've had various people tell me that the reason that they moved to Edmond was because of my channel and the way that I portrayed the city. I hope that for you, if you're maybe watching this and debating, that this video is helpful for you. And make sure you watch to the end because I do have a little bonus that I'm going to throw in for you. So the first thing there is to know about Edmond is employment, because unless you're working from home and you can relocate and still continue working your same job, you're going to need to look for some employment opportunities. The good news is that there is tons of employment opportunities in Edmond, and if not in Edmond, you're very close to the OKC Metro, so there's tons of opportunities there as well. The first sector that you're going to see with employment is education. Edmond is home to multiple elementary, middle, and high schools, but there's also 2 universities within Edmond. This provides employment opportunities in education for, again, those kindergarten through high school, but also in the graduate and undergraduate level. There are also tons of healthcare related opportunities. There's multiple hospitals and clinics and emergency rooms across Edmond that offers a lot of employment opportunities for those in the healthcare field. Edmond has also been seeing a growth in the technology sectors. There are a number of tech startups and companies that are coming to Edmond with software development, IT, and other technological jobs on the rise. There is definitely a lot of these types of jobs coming to Edmond. There's a lot of retail and hospitality type of jobs, whether that is retail with shopping like you're thinking stores, so sales or management, but also hospitality with events and hotels and all of the possibilities with that. In the hospitality industry, you also have restaurants. Edmond has tons of restaurants, especially tons of local type of restaurants that really adds a lot of employment options to the people of Edmond. Next is financial jobs. And so these can be anywhere from financial planning, financial services, banking, accounting, any type of legal profession. Because so many people are moving to Edmond, there's definitely a growing need for these jobs in Edmond. As a part of the Oklahoma City Metro, Edmond is influenced by government institutions and public administration. This leads to various job opportunities in the local government, public services, and administrative roles. Think things like city management, public safety, and various other services. With jobs, some of the leading employment companies are going to be Paycom. Paycom is a payroll company that is out of the Oklahoma City Metro, and I know this provides a lot of jobs for the people here in Edmond. You also have Tinker Air Force Base, which there are civilian jobs as well. And so personally, I have friends that are not in the military, but that do work at Tinker Air Force with a civilian type of job. So there are tons of job opportunities in Edmond and in the Oklahoma City Metro area, whether again, that's from education to government to healthcare or anything in between. There are just a lot of opportunities, a lot of things coming to Edmond that are creating these jobs. Next on the list is the cost of living. Let me know in the comments, but I think it would be kind of cool to do a cost of living video specifically where I maybe go into different grocery stores or different types of stores and compare prices. So for instance, if you live in North Carolina and you know your gallon of milk costs $3.40, I can show you a gallon of milk here and you can kind of compare those prices. So just let me know if that's a video that you might be interested in seeing, and I will maybe work on putting one of those together in the future. But for the cost of living, that is the main reason I hear for why people are moving to Oklahoma, why people are moving specifically to Edmond, because the cost of living is so much lower in Oklahoma than the national average across the United United States. Now, Edmond, as you're looking at kind of the OKC metro, Edmond is going to have a higher cost of living than many of the other suburbs outside of Oklahoma City. However, when you compare Edmond to major cities across the United States, Edmond still comes in very inexpensive for the cost of living. So when you think about housing, the average house in Edmond sells for around $330,000, $340,000. Now, obviously this is the average, so you're gonna have homes that are above that. There are homes in the millions, but there's also a lot of homes below that. When I am helping people move, I help people in all price points, but I definitely, even in my own business, have seen that $300,000 to $400,000 range tends to be kind of the average for people moving. And one thing that's really neat, and that a lot of my clients tell me, is that when they move from wherever it is, take many of my clients from across the United States, and they tell me what they were looking to afford from their original city and then what they're looking to afford here, they're able to get so much more bang for their buck. They're able to spend so much less, but get so much more in the property. People are leaving cities and spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, and they're able to move here and spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. But again, getting a house that is much newer or much nicer, or is really something more of what they're looking for. And like I said, the cost of living is really the number one thing I hear for why people look into Oklahoma. If you search lowest cost of living, cheapest real estate, all of those things, you're probably going to be pointed towards Oklahoma. Now, that doesn't mean that it's cheap in the sense of thinking that it has a low quality or low characteristics that make it not special and unique. On the contrary, there are a lot of custom builders, and even the builders who do more of those neighborhoods, they still do put a lot of thought and effort into their neighborhoods, into their homes. And so definitely the cost of living is the number one thing, a reason why I see people moving to Oklahoma. The third thing I want to talk about is the property taxes. And depending on where you're moving from, the property taxes in Oklahoma might seem outrageously high, or they might seem really, really low. It kind of just depends on where you're moving from. But I do want to explain a little bit of the property taxes and where we get numbers that we get. So property taxes in Oklahoma are levied at a county level, and the amount is based off of the assessed value of the property. The assessment process is the county assessor's office looking at the piece of real estate and the taxable value of that property. These are conducted every year, and so every year you get a notice in the mail saying what your property taxes are going to be for the year ahead. Once that property value is established, then you get your property taxes based on the millage rate. Now, a mill is equal to 1/10 of a cent, and the millage rate is applied to the assessed value to calculate the annual property taxes. And these are going to include things from the county, the school district, the city, and other local entities. So when you're looking at your property taxes, that number, it's not like it all just goes to one specific entity. It is split up between a lot of the different entities within that city. So as you're looking at Edmond, it's pretty safe to say that the property taxes in Edmond, they kind of teeter around the 1% mark. Now, again, this is kind of varies by house and by school district, and there's a lot of factors that play into this. However, it usually, as I'm calculating costs for people, I usually put in 1%. Now, again, it could be a little higher, it could be a little less. That's a pretty good number to kind of average in your mind. And why you might see higher property taxes in Edmond versus other schools in the OKC metro is because of the school district. Edmond taxes tend to be higher because of the schools and that money being allocated towards the schools. And so just know that when you are in Edmond and you're getting those highly ranked schools, that in your taxes, you're also paying towards that. So that was a lot of jargon and a lot of information, but really, if you are kind of curious how your property taxes are going to compare here versus where you might live now, again, that 1% is pretty average and kind of a safe number to think about as you are kind of planning for your property taxes and budgeting for that. The next thing is the insurance, and very similar to property taxes, insurance is going to be more or less just depending on where you move from. I'm Facebook friends with people from all over the country, and I kind of get a kick sometimes when people will post, my rate just went up to this. And does anybody, in my area have any other recommendations for insurance? Because I just can't believe our insurance is this much. And I compare that to what I'm paying, and I am thinking I would give anything to only pay that much for insurance. So I think in that instance, they were from Utah. So from that instance, I would say ours is probably higher, but I know that some other people moving from other states move here and theirs tends to decrease in price. And so obviously there are different reasons why your insurance might vary in cost. Some things things are going to be, because you're in Oklahoma, some things are on each person. So if you've had a lot of wrecks, if you filed a lot of claims, these are obviously all things that factor into insurance. But some things that will affect you moving to Oklahoma, regardless of your record, you have to think about things like weather. When you hear Oklahoma, you often are associated with the tornadoes and that stigma. Therefore, naturally, your insurances are going to be a little bit higher because of the threat of tornadoes, hail, and wind damage. And as I am also kind of helping people figure out budgets and how much they need to spend, very similar to property taxes, I also kind of like to use that 1% mark for insurance. And again, don't quote me on that. That's just kind of a very rough guide that I like to use to help people. This can vary and change, again, depending on the situation, depending on the home, depending on a lot of different factors. But if you need a very rough estimate, I usually will plug in 1% for people to try to help calculate their costs. And the final thing that I'm going to talk about, and I'm sure if you have watched many videos like this, then you have already figured out that I've got to talk about the weather. I kind of hinted at it in my last point, talking about insurance, but I've got to talk about the weather. And this is one of those questions I probably get asked more than any other. One, are there tornadoes? And two, what is the weather like? What are the seasons like? Do you have seasons? If so, what are the extremes? And so I want to kind of dive into each of these points in this next section. So are there tornadoes? Yes. When you hear Oklahoma, you often hear tornadoes. Yes, there are tornadoes. There can be tornadoes in a lot of places, I will say. And that's one thing, specifically in Edmond, is that we don't see as many tornadoes in Edmond as some other surrounding cities in the OKC Metro C. I don't want to throw any one town under the bus or any other cities under the bus, but there are definitely some cities who tend to see more tornadoes than we do. So to give you kind of some context, when I'm making this video, we've lived in our house for about a year and a half. In that year and a half, we've gotten in our storm shelter one time, and even that one time really wasn't necessary. We just like to play it safe. Once you've lived here long enough, people kind of get that Oklahoma weatherman syndrome where they want to sit out in the yard with their chairs and sip their tea and watch the tornado pass. I'm not quite at that level yet, so I still like to play it safe and get in my shelter when I think I might need to. But another thing is that the weathermen are very used to that sort of weather, and so you're able to get it on the news, or I'll watch it on my phone, and you're able to see exactly where the tornadoes are moving, where they're at now, where they're headed, and the weathermen are able to easily tell you, if you live here, you need to start getting in your shelters. If you live here, it's past. And so, yes, they can happen. Yes, they do happen. To say that they never happen would be foolish, but they do not happen as often as what you hear in the stereotypical Oklahoma tornadoes. And many of the homes are equipped with storm shelters. And if you're moving and you find a house that you love that doesn't have a storm shelter, there are tons of companies around here that will install storm shelters for you. From my kind of research and experience, these storm shelters can range anywhere on average from around $4,000 to $6,000, just depending on, is it in ground, is it above ground, does it house 4 people, does it house 10 people? So you kind of have to look at all those factors. But again, those are things that you can put in place to make you feel more safe and to make you more safe if inclement weather does come through. Now, a lot of people ask about seasons. So what are the seasons like? In my opinion, I think that Oklahoma does see 4 seasons. It's not going to be as extreme as some other states. I know there are specific states where you have a very obvious 2 months for spring, 2 months for this, whatever. And Oklahoma is not quite that distinct, but you definitely do see the changing seasons. Your largest, in my opinion, are going to be summer. It stays hot for a while. But let's kind of just start at the spring. So in the spring, your average is going to be anywhere from the 60s to 80s. So after winter's over, you're getting into those warmer months. You're going to see some warmer temperatures, and you're definitely going to see flowers starting to bloom, grass is starting to get green again. This is, when it's starting to get lighter outside. And so you do have a spring season. One of the negatives about spring is that this is also one of the times when inclement weather does tend to arise. And so you have to be more on watch for tornadoes and wind and hail. There is definitely a summer in Oklahoma, and summers tend to be really hot. Summers tend to average in the high 90s. It will get over 100 degrees. This past year, it was over 100 degrees for quite some time, but really the average is going to be somewhere probably in the 90s. It can get really humid, which sometimes makes it feel hotter. But again, sometimes you'll get that breezy wind coming through, and that definitely makes it feel cooler. Summer months are typically pretty dry dry, but you will get the occasional thunderstorm here and there. Now in fall, which usually comes around September, but really in all reality, you start to feel the cooler weather a little bit after that. You're gonna average anywhere from the 70s to 80s in the fall. You will start to see leaves changing colors. You also kind of have a threat of inclement weather sometimes in the fall. I love when the leaves start turning and you get those orange, yellow, and red leaves. Fall is one of my favorite seasons, and just getting those crisp, cool mornings. And like many places, that definitely is one thing that you'll see here. It'll be really crisp and cold in the mornings, and then by the afternoon you're sweating. And so I know that's not necessarily unique to Oklahoma, but we definitely do see that trend quite a bit in the fall time. Now the winter. Winter can kind of be all over. You're gonna average in the 30s, 40s, 50s. You're gonna kind of see that 20-degree variance throughout the winter, but it definitely does go below that. I know last winter it got around 0 degrees, not for long, maybe a couple of days. I've helped people move here from areas that are very, very cold. And when I tell them, oh yeah, we got 0 degrees for like 2 days, they're thinking, oh, that's really easy. But if you're moving from somewhere hot or like Arizona or even Florida and you are comparing it, that can seem really cold when you're not used to that. But again, those days don't come very often, and when they do, they don't last very long. I also get asked the question a lot, does it snow? And the answer is yes. It doesn't snow super, super often. So it's not like our whole winter is 6 feet under snow or anything like that. But there is usually a few school days here and there, and typically it will ice first. So the pattern typically goes ice and it gets packed down, and then it'll snow on top. Therefore, you get out of school a little bit longer because the snow stays a little bit longer. And so it definitely does snow from time to time, and it's usually really fun and pretty, and it's usually here just enough to enjoy it, and then it usually goes away. And so it does snow. This winter, if it snows any, I'm going to try to take some videos of that and upload a winter video. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully this upcoming winter we'll get some snow and I can show you guys that. Now, finally, I only had 5 things in the title of this video, but I did want to give you a little bonus and talk about the schools, because that is one thing that a lot of people moving here, they move because of the schools. Like I said earlier, people search cheapest place to live, and they often find Oklahoma. And then they'll search best schools in Oklahoma. And 9 times out of 10, they're directed to either Edmond Public Schools or Deer Creek Public Schools. And so I know I've explained this in other videos, but it's still kind of a different concept to grasp. And so Edmond is split up into 2 school districts primarily, and within those school districts, you have your own elementary, middle, and high schools. And so it's not like Edmond is a whole school district and there's just different schools that fall under one school district. You have 2 school districts. And so on the western side, you have Deer Creek Schools. This is going to be the smaller school district between the 2. And this is going to have 1 high school, which is 9th through 12th grade, 1 middle school, which is 7th and 8th grade, 1 intermediate school, which is 6th grade, 1 4th and 5th grade school, which is 4th and 5th grade, and then I think it's about 5 or 6 elementary schools spread throughout the district. So as you're looking at Edmond, there's no specific line that splits it into. As you're looking at the map, it kind of goes like this, and the school districts are very kind of awkwardly separated. There's one neighborhood specifically that right in the middle of the neighborhood, it splits the school districts. So your next door neighbor could go to an entirely different school district, not even just a different elementary school. Yes, a different elementary school, but an entirely different district than you, and you only live 1 door down. And so this is kind of a unique situation to Edmond, because on the one side you have Deer Creek Schools, and then on the central to eastern side you have Edmond Public Schools. Edmond Public Schools is the larger of the 2 school districts. It has multiple high schools, multiple middle schools, multiple elementary schools. It has more students overall. And again, both of these are highly ranked school districts. Edmond Public Schools is an A+ rating overall. Deer Creek Public Schools is an A rating overall. And so, like I said, many people are moving to Edmond for the cost of living and for the schools. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope this video was able to answer some of your questions about if you should move to Edmond, if you shouldn't move to Edmond. Maybe Edmond's not the city for you, but there are some other areas around it that are. Still feel free to reach out to me. If you're not sure if you're ready to move and you're just wanting to talk through some of these things, definitely feel free to call me. I don't mind hopping on a call at all and just answering some of your questions, making you feel more comfortable. If you should even come and visit, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, I hope this video was helpful, and I will catch you in my next video.